Have you ever tried to be somebody other than yourself? If you really think about it, I bet most of us have at some point in our life. As I was going through ministerial school, I was listening to different ministers, and it's like, wow, I want to be able to talk like him. I want to be able to have a passion like this lady does. And I would look at these different ministers, and it's like, that's what I want to do. And I try that. It didn't work. And what I learned was, Spirit has me right here as myself, and I need to use my own unique talents and abilities and not pretend I'm somebody else. You would really think that I was funny if I told you my name was Kathy Ann Lewis. But I love the way she does her services. But I get to be myself. So this month, we are looking at the theme of integrity. And today we're starting at the beginning, which is understanding integrity. So I bet most of you might say, if I ask the question, how many people know what integrity is? Most of you know. And I bet that most of you are thinking integrity means you say something and you do that thing. You walk your talk. That can be one definition of integrity. Well, there are two definitions of integrity I found in the dictionary. And both of them really go along with our science of mind philosophy. The one I'd like to share with you today is looking at integrity as being the quality or condition of being whole or undivided. A completeness here. I think back to many years ago, we were getting ready to go on a trip, and the car started making some noise. And I took it in to the service man, and whatever was loose, they couldn't fix right then, but we were driving 5 hours somewhere else. He said, well, the noise doesn't hurt the integrity of the vehicle. In other words, the vehicle is whole, it's going to work just fine. Just because it has this noise going on here doesn't affect the integrity of the vehicle. And that's really our message today is we may have limited thinking. We may see things as not being right in our judgment. Lack or limitation, we may call it. But it doesn't hurt the integrity of the universe. You see, there is all this potentiality for each one of us to gain in our life. We get to choose what it is we want to do. And if we limit ourselves, it doesn't affect the integrity of the universe, the wholeness of the universe. So see how well I explain this to you. Ernest Holmes says, we understand this on the universal level and particularize it on the individual level. Since God is equally present in and as all of its creation, each individual is an expression of integrity that is demonstrated through practices such as honesty, compassion, forthrightness, generosity, and strength of character. We also understand that we are imbued with volition, which is the power of choice, which can, unfortunately, be used to opt out of integrity and make choices that do not serve our own best interest or that of others touched by us. Have you ever found yourself, maybe not even consciously, opting out of integrity, doing something that didn't serve your best interest or the people that you love and are around? So it's interesting that we get to look at this for ourselves. It helps, I think, if we see that all creation is an effect. We have created this effect effect in our life. Whatever it is that's showing up in front of us, whether we like it or don't like it, it's something that we have created here, so it's an effect. Well, to change the effect, we need to look at what the cause is. What is the cause? And it goes back to God is the cause. Spirit is the cause here. Now, are we going to allow Spirit to manifest things that we want in our lives? Or are we going to limit that through our own view? And no matter what happens, it's all God. It's all good. But it's how are we going to relate to it? How are we going to interpret it? The story that Alan shared with us this morning, thank you for doing that. This guy, he and his wife are at the beach and they see these people being pulled away by the riptide. And he goes to save them. He realizes he can't. Do you think that looked like something good when he was going through that? That's one of those holy crap moments. But when you look back on it, who would have thought he watched this show about ants and how ants can build this bridge? You know, and then probably the chorus was singing in the background somewhere, we can build a bridge. I knew the musicians would like that. So it happens and it turns out right. We each need to show up who we are as our authentic selves. And if we don't do that, then we're blocking Spirit. And we don't affect the integrity of the universe, but we certainly affect the experience of our life. So how willing are we to be open? Open to new things, open to using the information we have, the people that are around us. You see, if we focus on something that's not like Spirit, inevitably, it's going to bring about in our lives the feeling of lack, the feeling of conflict or separation. We'll think that we are separate from others or separate from God. When we're not aligned with Spirit, then we perceive ourselves as being limited here. And that perception of limitation often will have us trying to beat other people out. You know, you've got to get to the grocery first and get the milk and the bread before the snow comes because everybody else is going to be going to the grocery for milk and bread. I don't know how many people. We were at the grocery the other day and I saw somebody and they had like 6 gallons of milk in their cart. I'm like, seriously? What kind of family do you have? And this other guy was walking through there with a gallon of milk in each hand. It's like, it's not going to snow that much. But I'm sure the groceries love it. Because it's that fear, you know, the fear of I'm not going to have enough. We don't have used milk and bread that much when we're not having snow. I don't know why we would buy it for when we do. So we need to be aligned and have our own perception here that all that we need is provided for us. That universal supply is always available. So we must be in alignment with God, with Spirit here, to be in integrity and to live our authentic lives. When we align with God, then we have that opportunity to be in integrity. Tom and I were driving around yesterday. We drove past a couple different stores coming down Parker Road. The parking lots at King Super, at Safeway, were packed. There were no parking spots. And I said to him, do you think we should go to King Super? He said, why? I said, well, everybody else is. We already have our food for the week. We've got menus planned, but maybe we should go. I bet they're selling milk and bread. So So being in alignment with God, can you see how if we go to King Super and we'd be running around trying to buy milk and bread, it's not really in integrity with us because it's not our truth. It's not what we need. But does that affect the integrity of the whole universe? No. We can have crazy thinking. We can have limited thinking. But it's not going to affect spirit and what's provided for us. In the Bible, in Acts 17, verse 28, it says, For in God I live and move and have my being. To me, that's talking about being in alignment with spirit. And when we are in alignment with spirit here, then we have our whole being. Unlimited possibilities are available to us. When we are not in alignment with our truth, then it sets up this sense of separation in us. We think that it's a them and us. There's a difference here. And in our consciousness, we begin to develop our own neuroses, our own dis-ease that comes into our bodies then. So it's better if we stay aligned with spirit, if we recognize that there are infinite possibilities, and we live in that integrity, that wholeness of anything I need is possible. I will have watched this show on ants, and I can set up a human chain, and I can save these people. You couldn't predict that, could you? But God gives us what we need when we need it, no matter how unusual that may seem. So we're responsible for our decisions, for our choices here. Ernest says, but if there is an integrity within me, shall I not have the patience and courage and fortitude at long last to look up into the face of the eternal life in which I live and say, God, I thank you that I gave birth to every trouble I ever had and every sadness and every fear. Now that's taking responsibility for ourselves. And when we can say to God, thank you that I gave birth to every trouble I had, every sadness, every fear. The good news there is, if I did that, I can change my thinking and the effect changes. So I can change my thinking and I can give birth to something that's joyous, something that's happy, something that gives me more life. We get to change our lives by changing our thinking. The spiritual truth here that I'm getting at is the integrity of the universe is never altered by how we use it. We have unlimited possibilities. We can make our own choices here. It doesn't affect the integrity of the universe. God is still God. We never limit that. Although sometimes we feel like we're limited. We feel like something is not right. So this picture shows you this wall here with this little window. Now if you're looking through that window, you have a narrow view. And you might think, well, that's a beautiful mountain. But that's all there is. Because our beliefs, our choices are like that wall that blocks that window. And if you stick your head through that window, what are you going to see? There's going to be a whole lot more there. More possibilities, more mountains to climb, more beauty to see. But when we sit back and say, oh, well, there's not enough. Oh, all you are going to climb that mountain? Well, then I won't do that because there'll be too many people on the mountain. If you stick your face through the window, you see that there are infinite mountains there and plenty of room for you to be yourself, to share your own unique expression of God. So we're the ones that limit ourselves. And when we limit ourselves, we don't limit God. We just limit our expression of it. The wholeness of the universe is not limited by our finite minds. We take our limitation and try to place that on God. And that doesn't work well, because we can experience so much more. Howard Thurman wrote The Inward Journey, and in it he says, "I am impressed by the stories which have come to us concerning the life of the American Indian. The Great Spirit brooded over all life in general and in particular." He says, "One dare not pretend to the Great Spirit." Do you ever pretend to God? Oh yes, I honored you, I'm open to all you have. That's pretending to God, if we're not really, truly being authentic. The clue to the answer is the awakening of us, awakening with us of the sense of living consciously in God's presence. Are you aware that you are always in God's presence? Even if you're in that job that you don't like, you're in the midst of God's presence. Even if you're with that person you love, you're in God's presence. Even if you think you're alone in your vehicle, you're in God's presence. How do we live in God's presence? How do we know that that consciousness shows up for us? There's a story, I guess I should finish this quote, then I'll tell you a story. The habit of exposing the life, the motives, the dreams, the desires, the sins, to all to God, make for the integrity of the person. Out of this flows the integrity of the act. Search me, O God, and know my heart. Try me and know my thoughts. When we're open to God, search me and know me means also help me know myself. Reveal to me what I need to know about myself, where I'm limiting myself. There is a story of these monks that lived in a monastery, and some of them have gotten a little old, a little crotchety, not really as patient with one another as they could be, and basically they were getting on each other's nerves. The cardinal that came in and was observing the monks saw what was going on. He called the monks together and he told them, "I know, and I want to share with you that one of you is the Christ. One of you is the Christ that has come back." The monks immediately started treating one another differently, because they were trying to figure out which one is it? Which one is the Christ? I know it's not me, but which one of you is it? And so they started reaching out in love. They started being kinder to one another. That is how they lived in the presence of God. And if we're living in the presence of God, then we're open to seeing Spirit in each other. Do you look with eyes that tries to see Spirit in each person? It's a good thing to contemplate. And it's not always easy to do. But we get to train ourselves to look with the eyes of God, the eyes of love, to see who is there. And we can live then consciously in the presence of God. It occurs to me that there could be another metaphor here for living in the presence of God. And when we can't see everything, have a knowing that it's there. The metaphor is a jigsaw puzzle. Don't you love it when we have our own space and we can have TV screens so you can actually see the slides? I spend a lot of time trying to choose the right slides here. It'll be so wonderful. So I have some friends that do jigsaw puzzles. One may be Tom. One may be Mary, of Mary and Larry. Could be Anne. And you know, what I hear them say as they're putting this puzzle together is, well, there's this one piece that's missing. I don't know where it is, but it's missing. You know, I did have one puzzle where it had two of the same pieces. So somebody was missing their piece. So I know there's one missing from this puzzle. Might have happened in our house this week. What we find is when you think that piece is missing, it's not affecting the integrity of the universe. Unlimited possibilities are still there. That piece is there somewhere, and it will show up, just as it did last night. Oh, it was flipped over in the box. And so the puzzle that piece got put in the right place. But see, if we think something is missing from our life, it's only our perception. And we are not affecting God being God, Spirit being Spirit, because we have a screwed up perception. So that is the integrity of the universe, not being affected by us. We need to know that Spirit has a plan for us, and that we in our finite minds may not be able to see the whole picture, but it will be revealed in time. So we want to stay aligned with Spirit, meaning staying aligned with unlimited possibilities for our lives. I want to share a final story with you here. And it's a true story. It's a story of a young Jewish boy who grew up in Germany many years ago. The boy had a profound sense of admiration for his father. His father saw to it that the life of the family revolved around the synagogue. The father took the children and the wife to the synagogue all the time. They were there practicing their faith, living their faith in very real ways, and the father led them through these practices. When the boy became a teen, the family moved to a different town in Germany, and that town had no synagogue. It only had a Lutheran church. The life of the community revolved around this Lutheran church, and the best people belonged to it. What seemed like a sudden announcement, this father announced to his family that they were all going to abandon their Jewish traditions and join the Lutheran church. His family was stunned. And when they asked the father to explain why it would be good for them to join the Lutheran church, the father said, "This is the best thing I can do for my business." The boy was deeply confused and disappointed in his father. He developed an anger through the years and a bitterness to his father, and that plagued him throughout his life. Later, this boy left Germany and went to England to study. Each day found him at the British Museum, formulating his ideas and composing a book. In that book, he introduced a whole new worldview and conceived a movement that was designed to change the world. He described religion as an opiate for the masses. He committed that the people that followed him would have a life without God. His ideas became the norm in governments for almost half of the world's peoples. His name, Karl Marx, founder of the communism movement. 20th century and beyond has been significantly affected because one father failed to live in integrity. How do your choices affect your life? Affect the people around you? Do you live your beliefs? Do you live with integrity among yourselves? So I leave you with the reminder that we must be in alignment with God, to be in integrity, and to live an authentic life. That's how we make our own impact in the world, is living with our own integrity, living our own authenticity. We are the only ones who can limit ourselves. Spirit will never limit us. We are the ones that limit ourselves. And finally, the universal supply is unlimited. There will always be milk and bread if you need it. The universe is unlimited. We get to tap into it. We get to take it on and be open to infinite possibilities. Spirit will supply for us all that we need and more. Let us pray. We pause and consider the fact that we can make the choice to live in alignment with Spirit. That we can be in integrity with our own beliefs, and that by living that authentic life that we have been called to, each of us expresses Spirit in our own unique ways. That is not only life-giving for us, but life-saving for others as well. Because as we live aligned with God, we encourage others to live their authentic lives. We are open and accepting of all people and all things, to know that there is good always, because there is not a spot that God is not. So we open our minds, we open our hearts to the unlimited possibilities of Spirit. And for the truth of that, we are grateful. And so we step into our greatness, to our authenticity, to our wonderful life, each and every day. I bless each of us as we open our minds, as we open our hearts, and as we live aligned with Spirit. I release my word, and together we seal this by saying,